I am 75 years old today, and as I sit here, looking at the reflection of a man I barely recognize, I have a confession to make that might disturb you. Everything you've been taught about the proper way to live is a calculated deception. You are being lied to by people who are just as lost as you are your bosses, your teachers, even well-meaning parents who were fed the same poison 40 years ago. They say that youth is wasted on the young, but that's not the tragedy. The tragedy is that life is wasted on the responsible. We are taught to be sensible until we are too old to be anything else. I know, because I spent for decades as a walking ghost. I had a pulse, a high-limit credit card, and a title that made people sit up straighter in boardrooms, but I wasn't alive. I was a passenger in a body that was busy serving a machine that didn't even know my name. If you are currently waiting for the right time to start living, to start that business, to take that trip, to tell that person you love them, you are standing on a trapdoor. I spent 40 years chasing a ghost, and it led me straight to a quiet house filled with expensive furniture and a deafening silence. I'm making this because I'm running out of time, and you are running out of excuses. Let's dismantle the lie piece by piece. It starts when you're 5 years old. You're told to sit still, follow the rules, and wait for the bell. You're conditioned to believe that life is a series of hoops. Jump through the grade school hoop to get to the high school hoop. Jump through that to get to the university hoop. And then the grand prize, the corporate hoop. I was a master at jumping. I believed the linear life was the only way to safety. I thought that if I just kept my head down and worked harder than everyone else, I would eventually reach a plateau of enough. I thought enough was a destination, but the architects of this lie don't want you to ever reach enough. The entire system is designed to keep the finish line moving. I spent 40 years on a treadmill I thought was a ladder. I was obsessed with optimization. I optimized my sleep to be more productive. I optimized my hobbies to be networking opportunities. I even optimized my vacations, checking emails by the pool because I was terrified that if I stopped running, the world would realize I was replaceable. And here's the bitter truth I found at 75. The world already knew I was replaceable. I was the only one who thought I was essential. I traded the gold of my hours for the lead of prestige, only to realize that prestige doesn't keep you warm at night when your joints ache, and your memories are empty. For decades, I was the success story. I had the corner office. I had the suit that cost more than my first car. I had the director title. But let's talk about what those things actually cost, because the price tag wasn't in dollars, it was in moments. I was a provider. That was the shield I used to justify every missed dinner, every forgotten anniversary, and every school play I watched through the lens of a BlackBerry. I told myself I was building a legacy. I thought I was giving my children a head start. But you know what my children remember? They don't remember the private school or the luxury vacations. They remember the back of my head as I stared at a laptop. They remember the hush their mother would give them because daddy is on a very important call. I was physically in the room, but I was a ghost. My mind was always 3 months ahead, worrying about quarterly projections or the next promotion. I sacrificed the now for a then that never arrived. I bought them everything they wanted, but I wasn't there to see them enjoy it. I traded their childhood for a retirement account I'm now too old to fully utilize. That is the math of a fool. I optimized my life for a future that was always 20 years away, and in doing so, I deleted the present. I became a stranger to the people I was supposedly doing it all for. And by the time I retired and tried to reconnect, the bridge had already burned down. The most dangerous sentence in the human language is, I'll do it when. I'll start that passion project when I have more savings. I'll take that trip to Japan when I'm a VP. I'll focus on my health when this busy season is over. I lived my life by the when, then philosophy. I treated my life like a dress rehearsal for a play that was never actually going to open. We treat our time like it's an infinite resource, but it's the only currency you can never earn back. You can lose $1 million and make it back in a year. You lose a Tuesday afternoon and it's gone into the void forever. I see you in your 30s and 40s, stressed and anxious, telling yourself you'll relax when the mortgage is paid. You think you're being responsible, but you're actually being reckless. You are gambling your one and only existence on the hope that you will be healthy and capable in 30 years. I had a friend, David, worked 70-hour weeks until he was 62. He had a spreadsheet for his retirement, the golf courses he'd play, the boat he'd buy. He died of a stroke 3 months before his retirement date. He spent 40 years preparing for a life he never got to live. He died with a full bank account and an empty heart. Don't be David. Don't assume you have the luxury of later. When you're 75, the things you did wrong don't keep you awake. The failed business deals, the lost money, the bad investments, those are just stories. They don't hurt. What hurts are the shadow regrets, the ghosts of the things you didn't do. I don't lie awake thinking about the time I missed a sales target. I lie awake thinking about the brother I haven't spoken to in 15 years, because we were both too busy and too proud. I think about the garden I never planted. I think about the book I started writing in my 20s that is still sitting in a box in the attic, yellowed and forgotten. I think about the woman I loved before I got sensible, whom I left because she didn't fit into my 5-year plan. Regret is a slow-acting poison. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It whispers when you see a young couple laughing in a park and you realize you've forgotten how to laugh like that. It whispers when you realize you have all the money in the world to buy the best wine, but no one to drink it with who actually knows the real you. I spent 40 years building a reputation, and now I realized I'd rather have one true friend who knows my flaws than 1,000 colleagues who admire my resume. Your reputation won't hold your hand in a hospital room. Your status won't make you smile when you're looking back at your life. Let me tell you about the day I retired. It was a Friday. There was a gold watch, a cake that tasted like cardboard, and a few speeches about my dedicated service. I walked out of that building at 5 p.m. By Monday morning, someone else was sitting at my desk. By the following month, they had stopped mentioning my name in meetings. By the end of the year, I was a ghost. 40 years of loyalty, 40 years of late nights, 40 years of giving my best creative energy to a corporation, and I was replaced in a weekend. We give our lives to institutions that view us as human resources, as fuel to be burned. We sacrifice our health, our marriages, and our sanity to climb a ladder that is leaning against a wall made of paper. If you died tonight, your company would have your job posted on LinkedIn before your obituary hit the papers. Your family, however, would have a hole in their lives that no amount of money could fill. Why are you prioritizing the one that views you as a line item over the ones who view you as their world? I realized too late that success is a hamster wheel. You achieve a goal, and for 48 hours, you feel like a king. Then the dopamine fades and you're back on the wheel, chasing the next hit. It's a drug, and like any drug, it requires higher and higher doses to get the same feeling. I was a success addict, and a withdrawal at 75 is a bitter, lonely experience. In the last 5 years, since I finally stopped running, I have learned more about life than I did in the previous 70. I've learned that a quiet morning with a cup of coffee and no to-do list is more valuable than $1 million closing. I've learned that the sound of my grandsons' laughter is a better symphony than any applause I ever received in a boardroom. I've started saying yes to things I would have called unproductive 10 years ago. I'm learning to paint poorly, but I'm doing it. I'm traveling to places not to see them, but to be in them. I'm finally having the conversations I should have had decades ago. But there's a sadness in it, too, because I'm doing these things with a body that is tired. I'm doing them with a heart that has limited beats left. I am happier now at 75 with a shorter future ahead of me than I ever was at 35 when I thought I had all the time in the world. That is the great irony of life. You only understand the value of the now when the later starts to vanish. I'm 75 and I'm standing at the exit door. I can't go back and fix my 40 years of mistakes. I can't go back to 1985 and tell my younger self to leave the office and go to the park. But I can tell you, stop asking for permission to live. Society will never give it to you. The system is designed to keep you useful, not happy. Stop waiting for the bank account to hit a certain number. Stop waiting for the perfect.